When 50 Cent announced he was executive producing Shawn The Reckoning for Netflix, the whole country held its breath. Everyone thought they knew the story. Everyone thought they'd already heard the worst. But they didn't hear what happened to me. Not the night I checked into the Park Hyatt. Not the moment I looked into his eyes. And definitely not what he whispered in the dark. Because what I saw wasn't a superstar under pressure. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't human. And before this is over, you'll understand the ritual, the demon, and the tragedy that bind his name. This is the part they can't put in a documentary. I told myself it was just another business trip. Another quiet week in New York. Eat, sleep, meetings, go home. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. But something felt off the moment my taxi pulled up to the Park Hyatt. At first I thought there was a convention happening, or maybe a major political figure staying the night. Black SUVs lined the curb, their engines humming in a low, synchronized purr. Police officers stood clustered near the revolving doors, radios clipped to their shoulders, eyes focused on nothing and everything at once. Not tense, not alert, just waiting. A strange kind of waiting. I stepped out of the cab, my suitcase rolling behind me, and the doorman gave me a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The air felt thick, like the building itself was holding its breath. Inside, the lobby glowed with warm gold light and polished marble, but the atmosphere was colder than I expected. Unnaturally still, almost staged, as if someone had pressed pause on real life. And that's when I saw him. Johnny Depp. He stood near the lobby lounge, dressed in all black, scrolling through his phone. No entourage, no security, just him. I froze like a starstruck tourist because who wouldn't? But the longer I looked, the more something inside me twisted. His presence didn't feel glamorous or exciting. It felt wrong. Still, I walked toward him. When else would I get a chance like this? Hey, excuse me, could I get a selfie? He looked up slowly, as if pulling his attention from somewhere far deeper than the screen. His smile appeared instantly, too quick. Too perfect, like a mask snapping into place. Yeah, sure, he said. I lifted my phone. He stepped closer. His hand landed on my shoulder. Cold. Not cool from the outside cold. Ice cold. Dead cold. My breath caught, but I forced a smile. Click. He stepped back, and the smile vanished the second my phone lowered. No goodbye, no nod. He just turned, walked toward the elevators, and slipped behind the closing doors. Something fluttered in my chest. Fear, maybe. I stared at the selfie. My face excited, nervous. Johnny Depp's perfect smile. But his pupils, they looked too dark, too full, like something was staring out from behind them. Something pushing forward. I lowered the phone quickly. The check-in receptionist gave me a stiff smile. Her voice was steady but strained. Welcome to the Park Hyatt, checking in? I nodded, distracted by the sight of two more officers walking into the lobby. Is everything okay outside? I asked. There's a lot of police. She didn't pause, didn't blink. We just want everything to go according to plan. The words hit my spine like ice water. I laughed nervously. What plan? She simply handed me my room key. Elevators are to your left. No explanation. No clarification. Just that single rehearsed line hanging between us like a warning. Upstairs, the hallway to my room was strangely silent. Thick carpet, dim lights, a faint eucalyptus scent drifting up from the spa below. Everything should have felt calming. But the moment I slid my keycard into the door, every hair on my arms lifted. Like static was crawling beneath my skin. Inside, the room was immaculate, modern, clean, safe. I locked the door, dropped my bags, and sat on the edge of the bed. But the feeling didn't fade. It clung to my ribs, tightening every time I exhaled. I tried distracting myself, turned on the TV, checked emails, scrolled social media. But my thoughts kept circling back to the selfie, Johnny Depp's pupils, that cold touch, the police. Eventually, exhaustion pulled me under. When the dream started, it felt more real than sleep. I was back in the hallway. Same carpet, same lighting, same silent stretch. But there were no rooms now, no doors at all. The corridor extended endlessly, alive with breathing darkness. I heard footsteps, slow echoing, not mine. I turned, and the hallway stretched even farther, as if the building were twisting around me, bones cracking under its own walls. I ran, palms slapping against the cold surface, but the corridor only grew longer, pulling away from me. A voice whispered behind me. Close, too close. Follow. I jerked awake, soaked in sweat. The room was dark except for the tiny blinking light on the thermostat. My heart hammered wildly. I listened. Silence. Normal hotel silence. Still, I swung my legs out of bed. I needed air. I needed proof I wasn't losing my mind. I opened the door carefully. The hallway was empty. except for a flickering light at the far end. It blinked in short, uneven bursts, throwing quick flashes across the carpet. That's when I saw him. Johnny Depp, standing perfectly still beneath the sputtering bulb. He wasn't wearing the same clothes as earlier. These were darker, heavier, almost shadow-like. His head tilted slightly as he watched me with no expression at all. He didn't speak, didn't move. I blinked. He was closer. My throat tightened. "Hello?" I whispered. Blink. Closer again. A sinking dread spilled through my chest, like my heart was dropping through the floor. Blink. He was halfway down the hall now. No footsteps. No sound. His body didn't sway or shift like someone walking. It was as if he was simply appearing nearer and nearer. I stumbled backward into my room and slammed the door shut. I slid the bolt shut, pressed my back against the door, and held my breath. Nothing. No footsteps. No breathing. No voice. But the silence on the other side felt thick, like someone was standing right there listening. I stayed there for almost an hour, knees pulled to my chest, waiting for anything to happen. Eventually, exhaustion dragged me back into the bed. When morning light crept through the curtains, I half convinced myself it was just a nightmare. A vivid, terrifying dream born from stress and the shock of seeing a celebrity up close. Just a dream. That's what I repeated to myself while brushing my teeth. Showering, getting ready. Just a dream. Just a dream. I believed it. Until I opened my phone out of habit and looked at the selfie again. This time, Johnny Depp's smile didn't look staged. It looked hungry. And his pupils weren't just dark. They were completely black. No reflection, no whites. Just void. Cold filled my chest. Dream or not, something followed me out of that hallway. And it wasn't done yet. I woke up the next morning feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Groggy. Heavy, disoriented. Sunlight slipped through the curtains in sharp, accusing beams, reminding me the night was over, reminding me everything I'd seen had an explanation. At least that's what I told myself. It was sleep paralysis. It was a nightmare. I was overtired. I imagined him in the hallway. I clung to every excuse like a lifeline. But my mind kept circling back to the selfie, to the way his pupils swallowed the light, to the flickering hallway, to the way he moved, if it could even be called movement. Still, I refused to let fear trap me in that room. So I showered, got dressed, and stepped outside into the cool morning breeze. I wanted noise, people. Distractions. Anything to drown out the unease thudding behind my ribs. For the first time since arriving, I felt a little relief. Just a sliver. Enough to breathe. Battery Park seemed like the perfect reset. Open space. Water, joggers, dog walkers. Real life. Normal life. I sat on a bench overlooking the harbor, exhaling slowly as tension dripped off my shoulders. I convinced myself the night before had been a stress dream amplified by seeing a celebrity in an unexpected place. I almost believed it, until I heard the bell. A soft, delicate ding that sliced through the ambient noise like a scalpel. I turned, and there he was, Johnny Depp, on a black city bike, just sitting there, not moving, not pedaling, not even touching the handlebars. His hands hung loosely at his sides, yet the bike stayed perfectly balanced, like it was fused to the ground. He stared at me, expressionless, unblinking, like a predator waiting for the right moment. My stomach dropped straight to the floor. A jogger passed between us for barely a second, and when she moved out of the way, he was gone. No bike, no figure, nothing but open park space. My breath quickened. I grabbed my bag with shaking hands, forcing myself to walk, fast, but not too fast, toward the street. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my mind kept repeating. That whisper from last night echoed in my skull. Don't run. The command crawled up my spine like cold fingers. I headed toward Soho next, wanting crowds and lights. Anything to break the feeling crawling beneath my skin. But the dread followed. Soho should have felt comforting. Boutiques, chatter, people brushing past each other with too much purpose. But something was off. The air felt sticky, heavy. My senses were too sharp. Every sound too crisp. That's when I heard it again. A faint metallic tick, tick, tick behind me. I turned slowly. Johnny Depp coasted down the narrow street on the same black bike, but the wheels didn't match the motion. They spun lazily, too slow. The bike glided effortlessly, not bouncing over cracks or uneven pavement. His posture was stiff, unnatural, like something invisible was holding him upright. His eyes locked onto mine as he passed. No smile, no emotion, just hunger. My legs refused to move until he turned the corner and vanished from sight. I clutched my chest, trying to slow my breathing. People around me kept walking, oblivious. No one questioned the man gliding through the street like a glitch in reality. No one saw the wrongness. Maybe they weren't meant to. By midday, I ended up at the museum, hoping a quiet space would help me reset. I spent almost an hour pretending to admire exhibits, but my mind stayed trapped in fear's chokehold. When I stepped back outside, sunlight hit me like a physical blow, because across the street, standing perfectly still beside the black bike, was Johnny Depp. One hand rested gently on the seat. His chest rose and fell too slowly. His eyes locked onto me like I was the only thing in the world. Pedestrians walked between us. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He didn't acknowledge them at all. He only watched me. A bus passed between us for just a second, and when it rolled away, he was gone. I backed into the museum doors, trembling. My heartbeat wouldn't slow. I felt displaced, like the city was bending around me, placing him wherever he wanted to be. By nightfall, desperation drove me into Times Square. I needed crowds, noise, life. Somewhere he couldn't isolate me. Somewhere he would stand out. But dread followed like a second shadow. Billboards flashed. Music blared. People shouted. The city throbbed with energy. Then a bike bell sliced through the chaos. Ding! I froze. Johnny Depp glided through the crowd on the same black bike. But this time, he wasn't pedaling. Not even touching the pedals. His body was rigid, arms stiff, face blank as he drifted between hundreds of people. No one noticed. No one reacted. The crowd parted for him, instinctively. Unconsciously, like some invisible force redirected them. He coasted right past me, inches from my ear. I smelled winter air on him, and something deeper, older, colder. As he drifted by, he leaned in. Don't run. My knees buckled. I stumbled backward into a group of tourists who shot me annoyed looks. But none of them saw the shadow gliding away. I ran. I didn't care what he said. I didn't care who saw me. I ran through Times Square like my life depended on it. And maybe it did. I didn't stop until I reached the Park Hyatt. My chest burned. Sweat dripped down my back, and the lobby felt even colder now. Its police presence even heavier. Officers watched me walk in like they were tracking something behind me. Something I couldn't see. I ignored them and rushed toward the elevators, jamming the button over and over. The ride up felt endless. Every floor dinged with a metallic echo. My reflection in the mirrored walls looked pale, sunken, haunted. When I stepped onto my floor, the hallway lights flickered violently. The air shifted around me, charged, alive, wrong. And then I saw him. Johnny Depp stood at the far end of the hallway, leaning casually against my door. Arms folded, head tilted. That same hungry smile from the selfie stretched across his face, but wider now. Too wide. My vision blurred. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. He just waited. My breath stuttered in my throat as I took one shaky step back. That's when the lights went out. I don't know how I made it back to the Park Hyatt without collapsing. My legs felt like they belonged to someone else, someone braver or someone stupider, because I should have kept running. I should have left Manhattan entirely. But fear has a strange way of trapping you in familiar places, even when those places stop feeling human. When the hotel doors slid open, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Last night there had been police. Tonight there were more. The lobby crawled with them. Uniformed officers, men with earpieces, people who looked more like federal agents than hotel staff. They weren't tense. They weren't panicked. They were organized, as if preparing for an event they'd rehearsed 100 times. They barely looked at me, but I felt watched, observed, measured. The receptionist from before avoided my gaze. Two officers whispered to each other, stopped the moment I approached, then straightened like they were snapping back into a script. Something ugly twisted in my stomach. I headed for the elevators, refusing to look behind me. The doors closed, sealing me inside with my own reflection. I looked worse now, hollow-eyed, sweat-damp, shaken. The elevator dinged with each floor, a sharp metallic stab scraping across my nerves. I felt like someone, or something, was riding up with me. The mirrored walls only made it worse, reflecting versions of me shrinking from a truth I didn't want to face. Finally, the doors slid open. The hallway was dimmer than usual, lights flickering like they were struggling to stay alive. The carpet muffled my footsteps, but my heartbeat echoed through the silence. Halfway down the hall, the air changed again, heavy, thick, electric. I knew he was there before I saw him. And then I did. Johnny Depp stood directly in front of my hotel room door. No bike, no entourage, no movement, just him. His posture was relaxed, almost casual, hands loosely at his sides, like he'd been waiting for me all night. His arms were folded in front of him, one shoulder resting lightly against the doorframe. But his presence, it smothered the hallway, like the oxygen bent around him. He watched me approach without blinking. "You came back," he said softly, his voice smooth as velvet and just as suffocating. I swallowed hard. My throat felt raw. I live here." "Not tonight," he said without emotion. "But you did." He stepped aside only slightly, enough to let me stand near my door, but not enough to feel safe. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. My hand twitched toward my pocket, searching for the keycard like a lifeline. Johnny Depp's eyes followed the movement. "You want to know what's happening?" he said. It wasn't a question. My breath caught. "I want you to leave me alone." He gave a breathless laugh. Too fast, too forced, like someone imitating what they thought humor was supposed to sound like. "You think this is about you?" he whispered. He leaned closer, not touching, but close enough that the air around me chilled. "This started long before you." Silence stretched between us like a rope pulled tight. Finally, he spoke again, slower this time, almost reflective. "You remember Heavy D's charity basketball game?" The mention made my chest tighten. Everyone remembered that story. The tragedy, the confusion, the questions. Johnny looked past me down the hallway, like he was recalling something buried too deep for most people to find. "That day," he said, "wasn't supposed to happen like that." The hallway lights flickered overhead. The hum of electricity grew sharper. Johnny's voice dropped lower, his cadence slowing. "They needed a tragedy." My breath hitched. "Who did?" He didn't answer directly. Instead, he tapped his chest with 2 fingers, and I gave them one. A chill ran through me so violently my knees almost buckled. "In return, I got my name," he continued, eyes half closed, voice almost serene. I stared at him, horrified. "What do you mean, your name?" He smiled, that same hungry, unnatural curve from the selfie. "My name isn't a nickname. It's a title, a contract, an exchange." A pause. "Johnny." The hallway seemed to darken around the word, as if the building itself reacted. "Why are you telling me this?" "You're the first person I've ever told," he said too calmly. "Because you were chosen." My pulse hammered in my ears. "Chosen for what?" "For understanding." His expression softened. But it was the kind of softness you'd see on a wolf before a kill. "Fame isn't luck," he said. "It isn't earned. It's taken. It's given, but only if you pay." He leaned closer again, lowering his voice until it barely existed. "They told me greatness had a price. A life for a legacy. A tragedy for a name carved into the world." Every instinct in me screamed to run. "Who told you that?" I whispered. His eyelids drooped. "The ones who don't live on this side. Not anymore." The hallway lights flickered faster now, reacting to something unseen. My hand found the door handle. I couldn't stay. If I stayed, I felt like something would crawl into my lungs and live there. Johnny didn't block my way. He didn't grab me. He didn't even step forward. He simply watched. "Where are you going?" he asked gently. "Away from you." "You can't." "I can try." His head tilted, curious, like he was studying some new form of human behavior. "You think this is because you're scared," he murmured. "But fear isn't the purpose. Understanding is." His hand lifted, not touching me but hovering inches from my shoulder. The same place he'd touched in the selfie. Cold radiated from that space, chilling my skin even without contact. "You feel it, don't you?" he whispered. "The pull. The door opening." I shoved past him. The contact felt impossible, like pushing through fog with resistance but no weight, like my body passed through 2 temperatures at once. My hands fumbled with the keycard. I slipped it into the lock. The door clicked. As I stepped inside, Johnny whispered through the narrowing crack, "I always get what I want." The door shut with a soft final thud. Instantly the lights in my room flickered, then dimmed, and from the bottom of the door, a long, slow sniff dragged across the threshold. He was smelling the air, smelling me. I didn't sleep. Not really. I spent the entire night sitting in the hotel chair, eyes locked on the door, waiting for a knock, a shadow, a whisper sliding underneath. Every creak in the walls spiked my pulse. Every flicker from the bathroom light snapped my head around. But nothing happened. No footsteps, no breathing, just silence. A silence that felt intentional, like he was letting me wait, letting fear do the work for him. Around 6 in the morning, my body finally sagged forward. I must have dozed off for 10 minutes, just long enough for the morning light to slip through the curtains and stretch across the carpet. When I finally forced myself downstairs, the first thing I noticed was how normal everything looked. The lobby was calm. Staff smiled naturally. Guests rolled suitcases past me like it was any ordinary day. Even the police presence had thinned out. Half the officers were gone, and the remaining ones looked bored. Like nothing strange had ever happened in this building. For a second, I convinced myself I imagined it all. The hallucinations. The bike. The hallway. The confession. Maybe it was trauma. Sleep deprivation. Stress. Anything explainable. I tried to believe that, really tried, because I still had another week left on this business trip. 7 days trapped in this hotel, pretending everything was normal. 7 days eating breakfast downstairs, riding those same elevators, walking those same hallways. Nothing strange happened during that week. No glimpses of him. No whispers in the vents. No bike. No shadow. But the fear never left. I kept my back to the wall in every room. I slept with the lights on. I never let the door close behind me without a second check. And I never, not once, stood in a hallway without scanning both ends first. By the end of the week, exhaustion had settled deep into my bones. I packed my suitcase slowly that last morning, relief gradually warming my chest. I kept telling myself, you survived it. You imagined it. You're leaving. I checked out at the front desk, thanked the receptionist, and turned toward the revolving doors. The lobby was bright with morning sunlight. A couple took photos near the entrance. A businessman argued on his phone. A bellhop pushed a cart stacked with luggage. Normal. Perfectly normal. Then the front doors burst open. Federal agents swarmed into the lobby, black jackets, badges, flashlights, voices barking orders. The sound hit like a shockwave. Guests screamed and ducked. Staff backed away with wide, frightened eyes. Agents spread out in a coordinated formation, the kind you only see in high-level raids. And in the middle of it all stood Johnny. Completely still, completely calm, as if he had been waiting for them. He didn't resist. He didn't panic. He just raised his hands and let the cuffs tighten around his wrists. I backed away from the doors, the suitcase handle slipping from my grip. My breath hitched as the agents led him toward the line of black SUVs parked outside. Then, just before he stepped into the vehicle, he stopped. He raised his head slowly, deliberately, and looked up at the hotel windows, looked right at me, even through the glare on the glass, even through the chaos erupting around him. I could feel it, recognition, connection. That same cold certainty from the hallway. His expression didn't show fear, or anger, or confusion, just a small knowing smile. A smile that said, I remember. I see you. This isn't over. I broke eye contact first. I don't know why. Maybe because some part of me believed, truly believed, that if I kept staring, he would find a way back inside. By the time I looked again, the agents had already pushed him into the SUV. The door slammed. The engine rumbled. The convoy disappeared into traffic. I stood frozen at the window, chest tight, breath trembling, suitcase forgotten at my feet. Relief didn't come. Not even for a second, because I knew what that look meant. And I knew what he whispered through the door the last time I saw him. Names don't let go. If you're hearing this, like, comment, and subscribe before he comes looking for you.